2021, the Mario Kart Wii custom track community have created some incredible custom tracks for CTGP, from brand new tracks to reskin current ones, from tracks from future Mario Kart installments to tracks from other games entirely. But which custom track this year was the best? That's what I'm going to be finding out today. There are 18 new custom tracks in the game, and I'm going to be ranking them all from my least favourite to my favourite this year. Before we get started, here are some quick ground rules before we get underway. I'm only looking at tracks that were specifically defined as new tracks, not tracks that were already in the game and had a reskin or was patched. Tracks that were previously in the game that have been taken out and brought back in are still in contention, however. The second thing is that I'm recording this on the 17th of December, so if another update comes out after this goes up, then you know the reason why I haven't been able to play them yet. I'm going on a break after this video, or after I'm done with this recording, so yeah, I won't be able to play them for a little bit. This is also my own personal opinion. You might have a completely different track at the number 1 spot, or any other spot in this list. But please don't get mad at me for having a different opinion. The list is simply for fun and nothing more. Finally, I just want to make clear that while some tracks ought to rank lower than others, because obviously this is a list, please don't interpret that as me thinking those tracks are terrible and, these are really, really bad. I genuinely believe that this year has been really good for custom tracks in CTGP, and there hasn't actually been a quote-unquote bad track added at all, so please keep that in mind, and again, this list is simply just for fun. So with all of that out of the way, let's get the list started. In 18th place is Saltwater Lake. Yeah, this doesn't really do much for me. It's not that the track's bad, it's far from it. I do actually like the theme, and driving through caves and over waterfalls is always fun, but it just feels a bit boring, at least when you compare it to most of the other tracks on this list. It's like I said, it's not necessarily a bad track. I said in the intro that none of these tracks I'm putting in this list are bad, but I just wish there was a bit more substance to the track to make it more interesting to drive. In 17th place is Medieval Castle Grounds. This one's also a little bit boring compared to the other tracks on this list, but what puts this one above Saltwater Lake for me is that I love the theming of this track just a little bit more. I do love the idea of driving through a ruined castle, and the track mostly reflects that, with there being some rubble in places and driving through the remnants of what I'm assuming used to be a hallway or a spiral staircase. But other than that, there's not much more I can say about this track, unfortunately. It is well made, and there is a nice head shortcut, so at least there's that. In 16th place is Water Village. This is an interesting one because this track isn't actually in CTGP anymore. It got removed in the December 2021 update, so I've had to use footage from a previous video that I did where I included it. I am still counting its inclusion though because it was put in this year. Sadly, there isn't too much to talk about with this track. I do like driving through the cave, one of the shortcuts is really cool, but the other shortcut is practically useless and there's not enough going on to justify having 3 laps. So it's a decent track overall, but it's still lacking that something to make it really good, like exceptionally good, in my opinion. In 15th place is Pinewood Path. There's a pattern here if you haven't noticed it yet. This track's a little bit dull, but at least it's 2 laps, because it's fairly long in length. What puts this track over the other 3, however, is that I do really like the lava section, even though I have no idea why it's there in the first place, and some of the tricks you can do are pretty cool. I do also like the rolling bales of hay on the large straight section, which does give this track a little more character, which I appreciate, and I think is actually kind of important, and it's another reason why this track is ahead of the previous 3. In 14th place is Sarasa Kingdom. This one also might seem a bit boring, but the main reason why I like this track over the others is because it's simple, but not dull. There are enough turns to keep you on your toes, there are tricks you can get which are useful for catching up, and it's the definition of short but sweet. I also love the harbour theme as well. It's very similar to Daisy Circuit, hence why I chose Daisy Circuit to be the theme of this section. There are a couple of points where depth perception is a little bit of a problem. You think there is track when there's actually not, but other than that, it's a pretty good track. In 13th place is CTR Engine Labs. This one might surprise some people because it seems so far down the list, and don't get me wrong, there are a few things I like about this track. It's a near perfect recreation of the original Crash Team Racing track, it looks visually stunning, and the visual effects are quite cool. So what's wrong with it? Personally, I think the turns are way too brutal for most of the vehicles in Mario Kart Wii, and I personally get confused by where I can and can't trick. So it's a pretty good track overall, but not one that I'm fully convinced works 100% in Mario Kart Wii. In 12th place is Mushroom Valley. This is a track that was in CTGP ages ago, but it got taken out, had a new splash of paint, and now it's made a comeback. Having seen both versions, I can safely say that this version of the track is a lot better, especially in the visual department. It looks stunning. I do also like the shortcut with the mushrooms at the beginning, because it really adds that high risk and reward element to the course, which I really like. Overall, it's a pretty fun track that I personally wish had that extra special something to make it an all-timer. In 11th place is Fungal Jungle. I love how this track looks, first and foremost. This track is extremely beautiful, and there's quite a lot of animation that gives this track so much more character, like the bouncing toad houses, and the little bitty buddies walking around the map. It's a really fun track to drive on as well, although I personally wanted the shortcuts to be a little bit better, although that is me nitpicking. Overall though, it's a really good track, where the visuals themselves speak for the entire track. In 10th place is Volcano Canyon. This is a track that might not be as visually impressive as some of the other courses before this, but it makes up for it in a big way by having a unique selling point. The 3 different routes you can take during the race, and a shortcut that is very hard to spot, but worth it if you take it. The only downside is that 2 of the 3 routes are actually a bit slower, so most of the time it's better to take the 3rd route and ignore the others. But other than that, it's a fun track. It's not the best volcano-themed track, however. The next entry is. In 9th place is Magmatic Sanctuary. This track is really, really cool, and in my opinion is the best volcanic track in CTGP as a whole. It's not perfect by any means, it is a little bit dark, and the shortcut feels like you're only allowed to make it half the time with those fire pillars in the way. But it's all the little things that make this track great for me. For example, the floor lighting up red so you know where you're going, and the thwomps lighting up in red is the coolest touch in my opinion. This is a fantastic track, and it'll be tough for another volcanic course to top it for me. In 8th place is Wuhu Island. Simply put, this track is an incredible recreation of the Mario Kart 7 course of the same name, and what a track it is. One entire lap of Wuhu Island from Wii Sports Resort. The creators even added in extra parts to make it even more Mario Kart Wii friendly. The only thing holding this track back for me is that the extra parts, while helpful, aren't exactly faster, and they're a bit pointless in a race. Still, this track is a very fun one and is a great recreation. But we'll get to another Mario Kart 7 remake later on. In 7th place is Dark Matter Fortress. I love the Super Mario Galaxy levels, and I was super happy that this track was brought into CTGP. The animation, art, and visual effects are all the same as they are in the original game, and the mushroom shortcut at the very beginning is difficult to land, but very satisfying to pull off once you get it. And it saves quite a lot of time as well. It's not my favourite track this year, because there are 6 more tracks ahead of this one, but it's a very good course that lives up to the potential of it being a Mario Galaxy inspired track. In 6th place is Jungle Glade. This is another Mario Galaxy inspired track, I think, and it's a really fun course to drive. Now a question you might be asking is, what makes this track better than other waterfall inspired tracks like Saltwater Lake? Well, there's more going on in this track simply, and you get to explore more parts of the jungle, like driving down chasms and getting a cannon back up to the top, instead of just driving around in a circle. It's not my favourite track this year, but it's a very fun track to play and a very beautiful track as well, and I highly recommend you play this one as soon as possible. In 5th place is Spectral Station. In terms of animation, this is probably my 2nd favourite track added to CTGP this year. Everything just looks so cool and spooky. Also, the trains aren't a nuisance here either, as you wouldn't normally hit them on this track because they barely get in your way, unlike other custom tracks like Twin Peaks or N64 Calamari Desert. There are more fun tracks on this list, but overall this is a stellar custom track that in my opinion is the best and spookiest track in CTGP as a whole. In 4th place is Mario Castle Raceway, or as it's typically referred to, 3DS Mario Circuit. This is an insanely good recreation of the Mario Kart 7 original, and it feels near enough exactly the same as it does in the original version. I love the cherry blossom trees falling at the start, which is my favourite type of plant, and the ending section with a rail cut that can save you some time, but lose you a lot if you mess up. The one downside to the track is the castle section, because it's very hard to get up that spiral on anything that's not an inside drift vehicle. But other than that, it's an incredible custom track. In 3rd place is Windy Whirl. This might also surprise some people, but I absolutely love this track in terms of driving it and how it looks. To me, it really reminds me of something from a Sonic the Hedgehog game, and the name itself fits the track very well, what with all the windmills and fans scattered around the track. I love the jumps and tricks you can do, including off some of the fans themselves, and some of the shortcuts are pretty cool as well. It's extremely fun, no matter what mode you're in, online or offline, especially on 200cc in my opinion, and because of that and all the reasons mentioned before, I absolutely adore this track. In 2nd place is Musical Cliff. This was an extremely tough decision between placing this and the final track in 1st, so I chose to put this in 2nd because I simply enjoyed the other track just a little bit more. Having said that though, this is still a beautiful and fun track to play, especially coming from me, who has a video game design degree with a specialism in audio. The musical element is everywhere, from the snare drums walking around the track, to the castle in the background shooting musical fireballs at you. Yeah, this track is awesome, and one of my favourite tracks in CTGP as a whole, but there's just one more track that tops it for me. And in 1st place, the best custom track of 2021, in my opinion, is Pianta Shore. Everything just feels right for this track. It looks really pretty, it's fun to drive, and the shortcuts are pretty cool. One thing that also really impresses me is that this is Nate Fox's first custom track ever, and he absolutely nailed it. The track is fun on every single mode in CTGP as well, Ice and Rain or 200cc, and I simply enjoy driving around the area. Not necessarily for time trials, but just because I love coming back to this course time and time again. And that's why Pianta Shore, in my opinion, is the best custom track in 2021. And that's my list. What track would you put as your favourite for 2021 in CTGP? Let me know in the comments, and please let me know if you want to see more list videos like this one. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and don't forget to hit that bell so you don't miss any new videos from me. I'm Akta Shikawa, and I'll see all of you guys in 2022. Peace.